Hey guys, Aaron here, and on today's episode of The Aaron White Show, I interviewed Jai. Jai is a DJ and a music producer, and we have a chat about all the things like what's the craziest stuff that you've seen before a show, and it's basically just an awesome chat, eh? Yeah, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, see you guys. All right, that's recording. Quick word from the sponsors. FIFO number 2, how a drug dealer became a FIFO worker, and FIFO number 1, what really happens after a plane takes off, all the dodgy stuff that happens in the FIFO industry. Both hilarious books, both available at Aaron Weston Author on Instagram and Facebook. Also under The Aaron White Show on TikTok. Grab yourself a copy, have yourself a laugh. For the kids, under Children's Books by Aaron White on Facebook and The Aaron White Show on TikTok and Instagram. You got Australian Surf Lifesavers, Australian Defence Force Machines, Australian Paramedics, Australian Firefighters, Australian Police Vehicles, Mining Machines Colouring In Book, Australian Mining Machines, all awesome kids books, and all available at Children's Books by Aaron White on Facebook, Instagram, and The Aaron White Show on TikTok. All right, let's get into the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Aaron White Show. You got to excuse the voice, got a bit of a cold going on. Today, got a fantastic guest, Jai. Jai is Boy King Koi. Also known, stuff that one up. Jai is also known as Boy King Koi. He's a DJ and music producer. All right, welcome to the show, Jai.
Hey, mate, how are you? Thanks for having us. Excited.
Awesome stuff. Hey, today I just want to hear your story, like how and where you grew up, any life-changing events, and how you end up doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, man. A couple of life-changing events, actually, throughout my life. And I suppose, born in Brisbane, I'm a Brizzy boy. I actually grew up in Cairns, though, and spent most of my time up there when I was doing school and stuff like that. And yeah, when I was younger, really involved in gymnastics, actually. Was a gymnast for a long time growing up. Ended up actually winning national titles one year, which was pretty cool. But didn't end up following along with that. But that was a big part of my life growing up, as well as music. Played trumpet growing up. Was a singer. Did music, pretty much my whole schooling life. So, my life was very much gymnastics and classical sort of music, playing trumpet and stuff like that, jazz bands, all that kind of cool stuff. So that's, I suppose, where initially the music stuff came from. But yeah, like my schedules used to be crazy at school, like high school, I'd be, my day would look like I'd get up during the week, Monday to Friday. I'd start training at 6 o'clock in the morning, gymnastics, do like an hour and a half there, drive straight to school or get driven straight to school, do all my school. After school, we'd have like some kind of music practice, a band, a choir rehearsal, something like that. And then straight away back in the car to gymnastics again, from say 5 till 9. So pretty hectic schedule growing up, and I think that's why now I do, so many things in my life, I suppose, because, like you said, music producer, DJ, as you can see, I own this recording studio, run that with my friend. I also work full time at a school. And then I've got my podcast as well called A Beer With, and I'm actually starting another podcast soon. Recorded the first episode last night, so that's going to be a really cool one, looking at some future technologies in the music industry. So yeah, I've always been pretty busy and pretty passionate about music. But I think if we're talking about life-changing events, I think the first one for me would have been when I was 19. I went over to the States and represented Australia for rugby union in the World Scholar Athlete Games. And so these were games that unfortunately aren't here anymore, but basically it was a games that was designed for world peace. So it was, you wouldn't go there and it wouldn't be like, the Australian rugby team versus the English rugby team or versus the Irish or the Americans. They actually took all the players, mixed them all up, and then put them all in teams together and built these teams with people from all over the world. And the idea is that, through playing sport and things like that, you have a bit of a connection with people from other countries, other cultures, you learn a bit about it. And then hopefully in the future, when everyone sort of gets older, there's that connection and that understanding of different cultures, that they're not really that different. They're more like, like you. And that was fantastic. I got to hear, Bill Clinton gave a speech. one of the, I think it was the son of the Nobel Peace Prize, the guy who invented that or started that. So that was really cool to, you know, to hear from those people and sort of, you know, their take on how we can try and, you know, further world peace and things like that. So that was really cool. But I think the highlight was we used to have these in the mornings, we would have these little groups of maybe 20 people, as I said, from all over the world. One of the guys, and I can't remember his name right now, but he was from South America somewhere. You know, this is 15 years ago now, you know, all this. So, and he basically, he said he was just blown away. You know, we were in America, in Rhode Island, at the University of Rhode Island, and, you know, you go into their dining hall and it's abundant. There's, you know, there's a whole soft drink machine just for diet soft drinks. Then there's a whole, you know, machine for milks. And then there's a station, you know, with pizza and, you know, like that. And people make you a sandwich at another station. So even for me, as someone from a first world country, it was, you know, it was blew my mind. You know, I couldn't believe that there was that much, but he was telling us how much it was blowing his mind, because he's someone who lives in a village of 200 people. You know, they have one van between all of them. They had to, you know, walk or run 5Ks to get their water. And he was a long distance runner who, you know, who he basically had to, he didn't train. He just ran to school and home every day, which is about 10Ks. So, you know, he was really great runner, but that really, to me, put things into perspective. You know, I'd always lived, you know, in Australia, quite a privileged life. We're very lucky over here. And I hadn't really met a lot of people like that before. So, and I met, he wasn't the only one like that I met. You know, I met a lot of people from around the world that were, you know, maybe not as well off or lived in countries that, you know, were considered third world countries or whatever you might want to call it. And, you know, that was, so now that was a huge change for me, man. That just put things into perspective, and I'm always so grateful and happy now, because I feel like I have to be, because, you know, like I don't really have the right to not be happy and grateful, because, you know, we have so much, and I feel so lucky. So that was a huge thing for me, man. You know, going over there and experiencing that, seeing those people and sort of, you know, learning more about those cultures. And, you know, the rugby boys were always pretty out there, pretty loud, and we used to throw the footy around in the mornings when we'd all be gathering at the start. And, you know, it started with a group of just the rugby boys passing the footy. Next day, a couple more people join in from, you know, countries that know about football. By the end of the event in the mornings, we would have this circle of probably like 100 people, you know, and we're talking, you know, we're teaching, you know, girls, you know, who are Muslim girls wearing full burqas, teaching them how to throw a footy. You know, they all wanted to learn. It was exciting. We were all having fun. And I really cherish those moments, man, because that was just like, you know, that was actually, it felt like what we could achieve. And, you know, that, like I said, that changed my life, man. Absolutely. But yeah, that was, I suppose that's sort of like something on a personal sort of development level that really helped me and changed my perspective on things. But I think if we talk about the music side of things, because that's my sort of, I suppose, sporting side, the music side of it, I sort of stopped music when I went to uni, when I finished school. And I was there for physiotherapy and then sport and exercise science. I didn't finish those, unfortunately, but that's actually because when I turned 25, I had what I like to call a quarter life crisis. I don't think people talk about that enough. You know, everyone says the midlife crisis, but I think there's that, you know, that mid-20s range where a lot of people go through what I like to call a quarter life crisis, which is, you know, just you know, realizing that maybe what you're doing isn't what you want to do. And I realized that when I found, you know, DJing and music production and that kind of stuff, the dance music world. Because I'd always come from the, you know, the classical world. I'd always come from the live music sort of world. And then, you know, going and experiencing this different, you know, this different music in a different way just really blew my mind and re-inspired me to sort of get back into music, I guess. And that was, you know, that was incredible. And then, like I said, when I was 25, quit music. I quit university. Just basically said, that's it. I'm going to try do this music thing. Started DJing full time. I had been DJing part time, like on the side for a bit. And that was, that was a huge shift. A lot of people, didn't want me to do that. Said, what are you doing? You're at uni, you're a bright bloke. Why are you going to give that all up to pursue this music thing? And, at the time it was tough. A lot of people probably didn't understand it and didn't get it. And I knew it was going to be tough, but, now I'm enjoying my life so much. I love what I do. Every day I wake up with a smile because I get to come and make music or DJ or do something that's creative. So to me, it was a huge, huge shift. That was a huge change. And, there was struggles as well. There was times where I didn't get paid one of the invoices. It was late. An invoice got paid late. I had $20 for a whole week to eat on, so it was loaf of bread, dollar loaf of bread from Coles, tomato sauce, Devon, cheese, the shitty cheese, slices, and just that for a week. I can't eat that shit anymore. It's too, I'm over that. So, but yeah, and that, that was huge. That was another huge one in my life. I guess probably the one after that, which you might be able to relate to a little bit, was starting my podcast. That was big for me because I'd never been someone on screen, never spoken, spoken to people or interviewed people or been someone in front of a camera or anything like that. So that was a big change and such a rewarding one. Really helped me to sort of help other people and sort of get into the music industry and really sort of, help to make a little bit of change and a little bit of good in the industry. And yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do is podcasting. So, but yeah, man, and now I'm here. We've got the recording studio I own with a friend. I'm DJing every weekend, multiple releases on different labels and independent releases as well. I got some sort of big plans for next year and a heap of music to release, as well as, like I said, playing gigs all the time and just having fun in the studio and helping other people to sort of, follow their dreams and passions, I guess. I always say I wanted to prove that you can be kind in the music industry and still succeed. So that's the goal. Not trying to screw anyone over, trying to help people and make it a more positive place, because a lot of people think that the music industry is quite negative at times. People, stabbing each other in the back, undercutting each other, taking their gigs, all that kind of stuff. But, I'm here to say we don't have to do that. We can all succeed and have a great time. So yeah, man, that's my story in a nutshell, I think. Went on for a little bit there, but as you can tell, I do like to talk. So
good stuff. Oh, what I want to know is, so are you working as well, or you are just full-time DJ, podcasting, recording studio?
No, I still work. I've got a full-time job at a primary school. So I'm like they call it a schools officer is the official title, but basically that's it's the groundsman and maintenance guy, groundsman, janitor combined into one. So I'm out on the whippersnipper and then inside on the tools, doing fixing locks, bit of carpentry here and there, plumbing and stuff. So but I've actually just decided that next year I'm going to take the Fridays off. Signed the paperwork this week, so slowly transitioned to full-time music, which I wanted to do last year, but unfortunately COVID hit, and I decided that having a full-time government job was probably a good idea for a little bit. So next year just doing 4 days a week, and so I can concentrate on studio, writing more music, and just making sure that all my sets when I play gigs are on point.
So it's definitely a reality that you hopefully be able to just go down to 3 days a week, 2 days a week, 1 day, and then just get rid of that. So it's definitely a reality that you can do that full time. That's
the plan, man. Yeah. We moved into this new studio about this time last year because our other studio, we sort of had to move out because we shared it with someone and they wanted to leave. So, we decided to go to a new spot. So that was a great idea. Let's go to a bigger and better place in the height of COVID. What a brilliant plan. Having that job has been great to help support the studio and getting us to set it up. Diffuse Studios, it's called. We're in Brisbane in the Woolloongabba area, and that's been, having that job has helped to support that. But the studio now is sort of, it's really starting to take off. It runs, in terms of money, it runs itself. It's making a bit of a profit now, which we can put back into the studio and get more equipment, more gear, better things, for the studio. So that's that was great for that. But 100%, full-time music is the goal. It's the plan. I always say, never compare myself to the old Joe Rogan, but I'd love to be able to just podcast, play gigs and write music. That'd be the thing. He does comedy and music, and then a bit of UFC and stuff, and I'd love to be able to do podcasting, music, and playing gigs and stuff. So that's the dream, that's the goal, and we're slowly getting there.
Give your podcast a plug and tell us what you actually do on it. What the gist
Yeah,
of
so
it is.
it's called A Beer With. And so I was going to start a podcast years before. It was going to be called In the Industry, which was going to be obviously talking to people in the music industry. But I decided that I did want to branch out a little bit and make it a little bit more broad at some stage. So, being able to interview other people, just like Joe Rogan does, scientists and people who have interest in what they do. I have had a few people on, like some short film directors and things like that on the show. Some people who have other podcasts and do have YouTube channels and stuff. But essentially, every episode it's called A Beer With, and then the guest's name, and it's mainly DJs, music producers, artists, and people within the industry. And like I said, also creatives. And so we sit down on a couch. The couch is, it's actually on the other side over here now. We have a couple of beers and we just have a chat. We don't, have anything planned, because I sort of love that. You never know what you're going to find out about people if you don't have like all these questions written down at the beginning. So, like one episode, I said to someone, I just said something as an offhand comment because their name was Storm, and it was that Area 51, Storm Area 51. And I said, "Oh, mate, you should be involved in it." And then he said, "Well, I think I was actually abducted by aliens when I was young." And I said, "Bang, let's go. Let's talk about that." So the first 20 minutes of the podcast was talking about aliens and how, he thought he'd been abducted by aliens as a child and things like that. So, I love that, not having the structure sometimes really means that you can get onto some topics that, like, I never thought we were going to talk about aliens in that episode. But, it was awesome to, get his insights and what he thinks. So, it's a free form podcast. Most of them are about an hour and a half to 2 to 3 hours, depending. So it is pretty long. We do have a few beers. So it's, it's fun. I like to do them in person because it's, obviously having a few beers is better in person when you can, you can cheers and all that kind of stuff. And at the moment, it's just been a lot of local artists in terms of Brisbane. But, the plan has always been to get around Australia and talk to other people in other cities. And then as artists, come through our city where I'm located, getting them in as well to, while they're in town playing gigs, to come and have a chat and sort of, find out more about them. It's really about finding out sort of the person behind the artist. Because, social media stuff, you always just see these short posts. People often don't get to talk about the things they're actually passionate about. Outside of music and things. So it's really about finding out more about, the other stuff. And that's why I like that long form, sort of no specific questions, because then we can actually really get into some weird topics and, talk about some different stuff. So yeah, that's that podcast. I've got other podcasts as well. I suppose during the pandemic, I started a podcast or a web series called This Is Not News. And it was over Zoom like this. And it was just talking to people around the country, around the world, about what's going on, where they are, positive things, innovative things that they've seen, and then a bit of fun as well. It's just something to tide me over to practice speaking and doing podcasts while I couldn't have people in at the studio for the in-person one. So that was a good one. And then the one that's starting soon. We just recorded the first episode last night. We actually don't have a name for it yet. We're still coming up with that. But it's essentially a podcast with a friend, Brock, and he's doing what's known as Project DJ, which is an NFT project. And so we're going to be delving into the world of NFTs, blockchain, decentralized technology, the metaverse, and all things, the future of music. So it's all going to be, some of it will be future, music related. So how that's going to affect, how NFTs will affect music and how we release music and interact with fans, things like that, as well as, other exciting projects that we just really like. So, and that one's a bit of an excuse just to be able to have a chat with him every week kind of thing, and also it's something we love and we're passionate about, and we think it's going to really shake up the music industry. So we're excited to sort of, delve into that world and share what we learn with everyone. So yeah, that's a few of the podcasts. I've done some other ones as well, but I've been the host for the Catch Management podcast. I interviewed a heap of catch artists, and then I did start one that I've only done one episode, but it's called All Jai Myself. So that's a solo podcast where I just talk by myself about things I'm interested in, and so that's the podcast, man. There's a lot there, but the main one's a beer with. That's always been the main one. I think I've done about 85 episodes of that. I think this is not news. We did about 10 episodes during COVID, and then there's probably about 6 or 7 of Catch, and then the new one was starting as well. So plenty of podcasting, mate. I've got the bug, as you probably know. It's it can be a bit addictive. So.
Oh, well, you touched on heaps of cool things. Then one of the things you touched on was basically, I find the same thing as well. Like you start interviewing somebody about one thing, and then they start going on to all these other things. So I'm a big believer that everyone's got a story, and you just Basically, I've had people come on for one chick. She came on for something. I can't remember why I got her on the show, but she ended up getting into like how she got raped. She got raped by like 2 different people and stuff like that. Another guy got molested. One guy, like lots of people have like drug and alcohol abuse. One guy's like tried to commit suicide. But you get them on because they're a minor or because they're another podcast or something. But they got all these. Everyone lives different lives. That's what's so interesting about this.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like I've had a few people on as well. Like I had someone who, he's gone through rehab for alcohol addiction and things. And, I think it's in, the show's called A Beer With. Obviously he didn't drink beer. I think I got him some kombuchas or something, but it's important to highlight these things, because there's a lot of stories out there and we can all learn from these stories, I've had people on who have had, someone who has gender dysmorphia, who, doesn't like, it was born a male and doesn't feel that way and, dresses how they feel and stuff. And so that was really interesting to get sort of hear from someone who actually, lives that life as opposed to just sort of seeing it from, from the outside. And then also, a couple of people in polyamorous relationships. I didn't know anything about that world. And then, now I do. So yeah, totally agree, man. There's heaps of stories out there and you never know what people are going to tell you until you sit down and get chatting.
What's polyamorous?
So having multiple partners, multiple different relationships with people. Yeah. So it seems to be, and I don't know if it's more the music world or if it's just because it's a similar demographic or because it's what it is, but it seems to be more popular these days than, I never used to hear about or know anyone who was sort of, living that kind of a lifestyle. But now it's, a lot of people are, and, it's interesting to talk to them and hear about the benefits and what they love about it and that kind of stuff. I don't know if I could be that mature and not get jealous to be able to do that kind of, live that kind of a life myself. But I can definitely see why people do it and see there's huge benefits for it as well. So yeah, it's interesting, man. Learn a lot.
So you always hear the story of like the band members getting cracked onto. You being a DJ, do you have all the girls trying to crack onto you all the time, or what's the go there?
Sometimes it depends, because sometimes you're playing like a really late set, so you might be playing the closing set, so you might finish when the nightclub closes. A lot of girls aren't going to wait around that long. But no, I'm I'm a pretty modest dude. I don't really go around sort of trying to flaunt that kind of a lifestyle. But it is a lot of people. A lot of DJs, yes, they do. You know, I don't know about me. I would say probably not quite as much. Maybe I'm being modest. I don't know. But yeah, it is pretty prevalent sometimes in the music industry. And you know, once you get to a certain level, I'm sure that definitely switches over to a definite. You know, if you were a world touring DJ kind of thing all over the world, then yes, 100%. But it, you know, I suppose it depends what level you're at and that kind of thing. And to be sort of I'm not in that realm of, you know, of or that level of success just yet. So let's maybe ask me in a couple of years and we might have a different story for you.
Sweet as. And here's a question for you. So you'll have your set all organized for the night, and then you have people, I'm sure you have lots of people come out, hey, can you play this song, can you play this song? Can you actually play those request songs, or is your set already made?
So basically, like, whenever you play at a venue, they've also got like a music policy, so you've got to play like within their sort of, you know, what they want the club to be, because if their vision for the club is to be this style of club, the music is a big part of that. So a lot of the times you've got, you know, an outline of what you should be playing. I don't prepare sets in terms of these are the only songs I'm playing and in this order or anything. It's always sort of like you read the crowd and you figure out what's going to work. In terms of people asking for requests, if I have the song on my USB, I can play it. This is the thing a lot of people don't realize is everyone now streams music, but for DJs to actually play a song on the CDJs, the decks in a club, we have to buy it. Like we still buy music. The actual MP3 files, we buy those. They're on our USB, and if we don't have it on the USB, we can't just play it. It's, you know, we don't have the song to play. So if I have the song and it fits in within the realm of what the club is and what they want us to play, then yeah, definitely I'll play it. If it doesn't fit in, I might have to sort of let them know why I can't play it, or, you know, always be kind and nice to people, you know, because obviously they're just asking because they would love to hear that song. But a lot of the times I won't have that song, or I, you know, it's not within the realm of what we can play in a club. So yeah, in those situations we can't, but you know, I'm always happy to play requests if I have them. The thing is, a lot of the times I don't have them. So yeah.
All right, just trying to think of how to word this next question. So when you do a set, so as long as you buy the song, you can mix it. So if there's like a popular song on the radio and you buy that off SoundCloud or wherever you buy it from, you can mix it and put it up on your own Spotify channel or something, or do you have to pay a royalty?
No. So the way copyright works with music is whoever's song it is, it's their song. You don't have permission to put that up in a mix or put that online, because unless you've contacted the rights holder of that song. So if you want to put it up as a mix, there's certain platforms that exist, things like Mixcloud and places like this, where it'll actually analyze the song, and YouTube as well. It'll analyze the sound, it'll figure out what song it is, and it'll, you know, if there's any royalties or anything to be paid from that, it will be sent to that artist. But if you're just putting up a mix on SoundCloud, you're not actually, technically the law is that you, unless you've got permission from the rights holder, you can't actually play that. Now, when you go to a nightclub and play and DJ live, the nightclub actually pays a fee to APRA, which is APRA's the governing body in Australia, and they pay a certain fee based off how many people enter the club. And then that allows them to play the music that they play, and then that money then gets distributed through APRA to the people, you know, who their music's being played in the venue. So it's yeah, it's you know, it's pretty complicated. A lot of people think that you know, you basically, if someone's written a song and you don't have permission to use it for whatever it is, it could be on a YouTube video, on a you know, whatever it might be. If you don't have permission, then that's you're not allowed. Technically, you're not allowed to. People do because they don't get caught, but technically that's against the law. You know, it's the same thing as if someone took your podcast and put it on their channel without asking you. You know, like you would be upset at that because they haven't asked your permission. if they ask permission, you might say, oh yeah, cool, you can do that. But if they haven't asked you, then you'd be pretty upset as well. So it's just weird, the music industry, because it's we all love music, and it's a bit of a grey area sometimes, because you want people to hear your music, so you want them to play it, but at the same time, you also want to be paid for your work that you've done. So it's a fine line to sort of try and trade.
There are heaps of stuff I want to ask you, but just checking out the time. I was going to ask you about NFTs. I'll ask you that in a minute. What's the craziest thing you've seen doing your, like, at the clubs and stuff?
Craziest thing I've seen. I've been doing this for about 13 years, so I'm gonna have to think back now. Craziest thing I've seen. I mean, like, I used to, for a little bit, I was sort of the head, I was filling in as the head promoter of Family Nightclub in Brisbane for a couple of months, between some people. And I think just being exposed to being in the green room and hanging out with artists and stuff, sometimes seeing their writers and things, like what they ask for to be, in their green room for them, is like crazy. Like, I can't remember who it was now. It was trap duo from the States. Might have been Candyland, I think. I can't remember exactly, but they wanted 2 packs of Pokemon cards. They wanted women's underwear, a Macy Gray vinyl album, like chips, lollies, beers, a bottle of Fireball, and a bottle of vodka or something like that, And so that was just crazy to see. I'm like, these Pokemon cards doing here? And they're like, yeah, we ask for them everywhere. They're like, we love Pokemon cards. So it's like, that's not crazy in terms of like wild parties and stuff. Like, I've had some parties where I used to play at full moon parties in Townsville, and DJ Chronic and Bombs Away, we were upset. We got on the ferry straight up, went upstairs and locked the doors, told them it was our artist area, and everyone just believed us. It wasn't, it was just a ferry, but everyone had been at the show watching the boys and that. So we just did it, and there was some loose times there and stuff. But, like playing at Doof this year, playing at Rabbits Eat Lettuce was absolutely massive for me. That was amazing. And just the crowd, and like, walking around the festival days, the next day, and people stopping you and go, oh, you're that guy that played, in the teepee, tent, last night. And I was like, oh yeah. They're like, mate, that was awesome. And, like, that's just crazy to have people you don't know, and, you've only just played this set, recognize you, and sort of give you props. So that was a huge thing for me, that festival. And, hopefully we'll be doing a few more Doofs and festivals in the coming sort of times. But yeah, I don't know, crazy. There has been some crazy stuff, I'd probably say, but maybe some of it I can't talk about. Some artists might get a bit angry at me.
Just don't mention their names.
Yeah. There's been stuff where it's just been like huge benders with artists and stuff. Even something like just getting on the piss with Ian Kerry. R.I.P. Ian Kerry. He passed away this year. A little bit too young to have gone, but we got on the piss after a full moon, and just we were just kicking it, man, just kicking it for a while. Then there's been ones where I think I went up for a little mini tour up to Townsville. We went to someone's house for an after party, and there was like, they had started this massive bonfire. There was people on the roof and stuff, and I don't know what they were doing, but like it was just looseness. So yeah, plenty of like, stories of green room sort of antics, and, people doing stupid stuff. And, but, all the nights start to sort of meld into one a little bit sometimes. So yeah, it's, but, yeah, I think just really getting really loose is something that has been pretty crazy with some, some big artists who you wouldn't have maybe expected, or you would have thought they'd be too big for you, or or they wouldn't want to hang out or anything, and then they actually turn out to be super nice people and just want to get loose and stuff. So yeah, I'd say there's been some really good after parties and things like that, where things are just there's just piss everywhere and everyone's having a good time.
Because yeah, in that scene, do you feel like you have to stay on the piss or get on the drugs or just like be on their level?
I used to, not anymore. Now I'm like, I still do drink, but like
Yeah.
I still play at a lot of events that are pretty loose, a lot of younger people. And sometimes people will be like, oh, scull this drink and give me a drink. And, now I'm just like, if I feel like doing it, I will. If I don't, which sometimes I don't, I'll just be like, nah, man, I don't feel like doing that. And they're like, oh, come on, like, don't be soft. I'm like, no, it's not soft, eh? Like, I don't feel that peer pressure anymore.
Yeah.
Because I always say to them, I've been on more benders than you had hot dinners, mate. So, ease up, so, and, that's in this scene anyway, in Brisbane, people sort of, they know and respect that. And, I've got a lot on, as I said earlier, I do a lot of things. And sometimes I got to do something the next day, or I got to go and play another gig or do something. And, people are pretty respectful of that nowadays. But in saying that, it's, I do like to get on the drink. My podcast is called A Beer With. So I do feel kind of bad when people buy me a beer and I don't feel like it. So I'll usually drink. If you buy me a beer, I'll probably drink that. I'm not going to scull it. But, yeah, I'm known for my podcast, which is A Beer With. So, and I do love beer. So, yeah, it definitely can be a slippery slope, but I'm very, very mindful of it. I've got a lot to do. So I've got to make sure I'm sort of, firing on all cylinders when I need to.
Oh, totally. So now you got this studio going. Do you find when artists come in, like they try to bring a big entourage, or they try to be a bit more professional and they just try to come in by themselves to get the music done professionally?
It depends who they are and what level they're at, what they're doing. If you're working with someone who's a new artist, who hasn't really recorded before, they're not going to bring people with them. They're nervous to do it in front of you as it is. They don't want their mates there watching, and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, and then sometimes, big artists might come through and they might bring their photographer, videographer, and, and their team, their manager or touring manager. We had, at our old studio, we had Matroda and Jackknife come through the studio, and they, booked it out for a couple of hours when Matroda was in town. And so he had, his manager, I think he's a photographer and all that there. So, yeah, sometimes you do. Just depends on the artist. Bands, sometimes for rehearsals, they might bring a few mates in, which is fine. But it just, it also depends on the genre, If you're making house music, you're probably not going to bring a heap of entourage. But if you hip hop and stuff like that, you might have a few mates come through, and have a few drinks. So it just really depends, man. Sometimes yeah, sometimes no. Just the one person.
Oh, sweet. Just watching that time again. I want to quickly touch on NFTs because on this
Yeah.
other podcast that is uploaded, they were talking about NFTs, and it sounds like it's like a big thing now. So
Yeah.
go for it. What's the
Yeah.
go with NFT and your?
Yeah, so NFTs are non-fungible tokens. So it's a digital asset, basically. So, think about, I think the best way to describe it to people is like, how you maybe in like a game like Fortnite or something, you can buy a skin for your character or whatever, like a costume. Well, imagine a world where you could buy that skin and then you actually own that and you could potentially sell that to someone else because it's actually a digital asset that you own. And so that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about things within the digital world that you can actually own. And it's all powered by the blockchain. And the reason that you can own it is because, a lot of them are artworks. So they might just be pictures. People say, well, I can just copy that picture, and take a, screenshot of it. And then I've got that picture. The thing is, you can't prove that you own it. If I buy that NFT, because the blockchain has a digital ledger where it actually writes down, this person bought this and they sent it from this place to this place. So you can actually see that in your wallet in the transactions. You actually see that it came from the original creator. So if I made an art piece and sold it to you, and then you wanted to sell it to someone else, they can actually look at your wallet and say, okay, it is original because it originated from my wallet. So it came from me to you, and they can actually see that. So they can actually prove that it's an original art piece that you own because they can see that transaction. Then you can sell it on to someone else. So the fact that you can own it is huge, but then the fact that you can actually put in like smart contracts. So if we do exactly what I just said, I sell you an art piece and you want to sell it on to someone else, I can actually put a digital, like a smart contract within that in the metadata, which means when you sell that to someone else, I could have put in there that I get 10% of every sale in the future. So you sell it to someone else for $100, I'll get $10 of that, you know, and they sell it to someone else for $200, I'll then get $20 of that. And it keeps going on forever. It's in perpetuity, it's forever. So it really, you know, usually in the art world, if you sell something to someone and then they sell it on, you don't get anything. So this is a way, you know, where it's going to really change the way creatives work, because that on sale and being able to get that percentage is just like a huge deal. And eventually, once the metaverse, which, you know, everyone's sort of just learning about with the Facebook change, eventually when there's these virtual worlds, you'll actually be able to wear some of these things. So imagine buying a pair of Nike Air Force Ones or whatever, you know, like, and in a digital version. And then when you're in this virtual world, you could be wearing those shoes. And so, you know, a lot of people don't see the value or what it is, but it's the same thing as in the real world. Why do people wear fancy, expensive shoes? Because they like how they look in them. They want people to know they've got money, whatever it might be. But there's reasons they're wearing them. Well, it's going to be the same once we get to the digital world. You know, people are going to want to make their avatar or whatever they look like have these, you know, nice outfits so that people, you know, like how they look. So it's really in the future, like, and we're talking, this is the infancy, and that's the problem. It's hard to really see the future applications. You really have to sort of think about it, what the potential could be, because there's, you know, it's almost unlimited what could happen, like how it could go from here. But that's like one small part. You know, NFTs are, there's all kinds of applications for it. In the future, you might buy a ticket. Instead of buying a ticket to a festival, you might buy an NFT to a festival, and that is your ticket to get into the festival. But then you've got that and you've got it in your wallet forever. And then people can go and say, you know, they'll be able to say, oh, look, I went to Glastonbury in 2015. Here's my NFT. And you can see that they went to Glastonbury, because you can't make up a fake, you know, you can't make a fake ticket stub that said you went to Glastonbury. It'll actually be an NFT that, like we said before, you'll be able to see that was purchased directly from the festival itself. So you can actually prove it. So, you know, people do all these things. And if you bought the first ticket and you've got the first ticket says 001, you know, that might be valuable in, you know, 30 years time or something like that. So there's all these other applications that they could be used for, but essentially it allows people to own things in the digital world that you can prove you own. And that's basically what it comes down to. Yeah. Yeah, I know, it's wild. Yeah, you know, I learned about it on Clubhouse first of all, probably, you know, 8-9 months ago, and then, you know, there was a heap on that there, and you know, it's just been a learning process from there, and it's, you know, I've learned more slowly and listened to podcasts, look up articles, and look at things, and yeah, it's something I'm excited about. I think it's going to be big, but hey, I could be wrong. It might end up being a flop. Who knows? But I'm excited. I think it's got a potential in the future, as do a lot of other people. So, you know, we'll see what happens, man.
Do you own any?
I own a couple. I've got my mate who I'm doing the podcast with. He's got a project called Project DJ, and it's I bought the first AAA VIP access pass for that. So founding member kind of thing. It's a little Skrillex punk. It's designed, if anyone knows, you know, what the crypto punks are out there. It's a DJ version of crypto punks, and it's like a Skrillex, like an image of Skrillex, but sort of a sort of digital pixelated version of him. So yeah, I've got that one. Just for a bit of fun, I bought a No Fun Toad, just because I wanted to, just thought it was funny and liked the look of it. And then I've got my eye on a few other projects I'm looking to purchase in the next sort of, you know, couple of weeks and stuff. But, you know, trying to do my research, make sure that everything I do, you know, isn't a silly investment or whatever. You know, you don't want to and you want to play with money that you have. You don't want to bet the house on something, because that's that's a surefire way to put yourself in a bit of a tricky position. So just only the two at the moment, and I'll slowly expand my collection sort of as I find projects I like and that, and through the podcast, I'm sure we'll find some more ones that are really cool, and if we like them, we'll invest. If not, we keep looking. It's you don't have to buy every project, and a lot of them are expensive. Some of them you got to get in, or even on the ground floor, it's a couple of grand. So it just depends on what you're doing, and I'm not looking to invest that kind of money just yet, but we'll see how we go. A few smaller projects I've got my eye on, so should be good, man. In the future, I'm excited, but only the two at the moment. I want to get into it slowly. I don't want to go all in yet.
Ah, sweet. Well, this conversation flow. You always hear on the other podcasts you listen to, like, oh, well, we could keep talking forever. Better wrap this up though. But we actually could have kept talking for ages. But I actually do have to wrap this up. Like, I try to keep it like a 40-minute podcast type thing. I don't want to make it too long. Where can people support you or find you and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, cool. I mean, my website, www.abeerwith.com. That's pretty easy to find. All my social media, I am at Boy King Koi, so BOIKINGKOI. So it's like boy as in BOI, because it's the last name, bit of a rhyme, Boy King Koi. You can check out the studio, Diffuse Studios. It's spelt a little bit funny. It's DIFFUSZED Studios. So there's a Z in there. That's because we couldn't get it without the Z. There's another studio in Germany that has a similar name, so we didn't want to clash too much there. And then the other thing I would say is go check out that NFT project, which is just projectdj.io. And if you're interested, you can come and join the Discord. And if you want to learn more about NFTs, or anything to do with, the blockchain and music, we're in there all the time, and always happy to help anyone. So, go join that Discord. And like I said, I'll have that podcast out soon. Not quite sure on the name of the podcast, maybe the NFT project. We haven't really decided on something yet, but we'll come up with a name, and get that one out there. But like I said, check out the website for the podcast. There's links to all my socials and everything on there. Check out the studio and all my DJ socials. I'm on all platforms as Boy King Koi.
Oh, that was pretty cool. That was an awesome chat. Like an NFT project sounds like a pretty good one. Like a name.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we'll sort it out.
Sweet. Well, I want to say massive thanks for coming on the show. Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. I'm so used to saying that to guests.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, like I said, I love these kind of chats where, like you said, we don't have a set lot of questions or anything, and we can sort of free form go for it and sort of figure out, what we want to talk about in the moment. So I really, appreciate the opportunity to come on and have a chat to you. And I think I'm going to have to check out some of those books you were mentioning at the start. They looked pretty cool.
They're pretty funny.
That's definitely going to have to check out something. So thanks for having us, man. Really appreciate it. And, can't wait to see how the episode turned out.
Sweet as. All right, I'll wrap this up. Well, yeah, that's a wrap. I'd like to thank Jai again for coming on the show. And I'd like to thank you, the listener, for listening. Please tell a friend about the podcast. Have a fantastic day. All right, bye.